Before we dive deep into formatting text here in Microsoft Word, it might be a good idea to get a quick introduction to fonts. For some, this will be a review, for others brand new. What we're going to do is work with a document called Fonts as we investigate fonts. So go to the Chapter 3 folder and open up this document if you'd like to follow along. We're going to begin right up here at the very first line, Understanding Fonts. Fonts, or as they used to be called typefaces, really have become synonymous. Fonts used to be a subset of a typeface, but now they really mean the same thing, and that is just a collection of characters, a character set, for example. You will have alphanumeric characters, that is letters, upper and lowercase, numbers, punctuation, even special characters in some sets. Think of smiley faces, for example. But it all comes down to two main groups of fonts, that is serif and sans serif. Now there's an example of a very popular serif font, Times New Roman. You'll notice little ticks at the end of the S's, the F at the bottom at the base, for example. This is a font that's very popular and does allow the eye to move easily from left to right. That's how it's designed. When we get into the sans serif fonts, you'll notice a cleaner, crisper look, like this very popular one called Arial. There are no ticks at the ends of the S's and at the base of the F. So this is a totally different look and feel for a font. Depending on the document and your audience, you'll have to choose whether or not serif or sans serif is the right choice. There are many different types of fonts that fall into one of these categories. So let's take a look at one. Here's one called Calibri. We'll just click anywhere in the word Calibri. I just want to show you here in Word that information about your font selection is always at your fingertips on the ribbon. With the Home tab selected, you'll see Calibri. Body is selected. It's 16 points. That's the size right here. And I don't see any of these attributes selected, so it's just plain old text. Now sometimes you'll find font styles, a totally different set of characters based on that original font. For example, up here we have Arial, but down here we have something called Arial Black. And if I click in here, I see the name of the font is actually Arial Black, not just Arial. It's a heavier font, it's very dark, great for titles, but it is a sans serif font as well, so you won't find these ticks. Let's just click the drop down here on the ribbon and you'll see as we scroll down alphabetically through this list, there is more than one Arial choice. There is original Arial, there is Arial Black, there is one called Arial Narrow, so a same font style but different attributes already applied. So you don't have to actually go in and start applying things like bolding and sizing and so on. Arial Rounded, Arial Unicode, all very similar looking but with different attributes, and they are already applied. So all you need to do is select the right font. We'll just leave it as it is. We'll come over to our document and click to close that drop down. One of the attributes you can apply is a font size. So here's an example of Calibri set to 72 points. When we click anywhere in there, we see the 72 points in the size drop down. Why would I pick 72? Well, that actually happens to represent 1 inch exactly. So take it from there. If you want a half-inch font, you'd be choosing 36 points, and so on. Very popular reading font sizes for most documents are from 10 to 12 points. We can also apply certain effects. For example, if we go down to Calibri small caps with shadow, click in there, again we see the font and the size. But there are also some effects that are obvious to see here. We have shadow, for example, and if you look at the characters, they are all capital letters. But some of them smaller than others. It's called small caps. We don't have access to these directly from the ribbon, but we can click this little expansion arrow in the bottom right hand corner. Control D is a shortcut to open up the dialog box. In the font dialog box, you'll see a font tab and an advanced tab. And with the font tab, you're going to see certain attributes you can change and select from here. You can change the color. You'll notice small caps is checked off. We could do all caps, super and subscript. Great for making those certain characters smaller and higher or lower than the rest. Think of H2O, for example, or trademark symbols and copyright symbols. We can go down to text effects. There is a button for that. When we click there, you'll see we do have some text effects to choose from here, like fill effects and outline effects. We'll be getting into all of this as we move through the various movies in this chapter. Alright, let's click cancel now and look at the very last line. One last thing I want to mention about fonts is the ability here in Word to adjust the character spacing. The spacing between individual characters, not just between words. It's also known as kerning, and we can go into that advanced tab in the font dialog to choose certain settings, like condensed. where each of the characters are much closer together. Think about trying to fit a certain amount of content into a single page, and it's just kind of spilling over into the second page. One option is to adjust kerning. Now, you don't have to just choose condensed or expanded. You can really be quite specific with the spacing, down to percentages and points and so on. We'll take a look at that a little bit later as well, but that's a quick introduction to fonts and understanding them before we go into the next lesson, which is going to be choosing the right font and font style.